Sound check 1 2 1 2. Sound check 1 2. Are we public? Yes, we are. We are good here. Good morning. Mike is on Instagram. Y'all can hear me, right? People on Instagram, let me know y'all can hear me. Make sure my mic is on. We are live on LinkedIn. Good morning, LinkedIn. We are live on Facebook. Good morning, Facebook. That's Facebook/Work on Your Game University. We're live on Rumble. I think my Rumble name is Dre All Day. Live on X. My name over there is definitely Dre All Day. Live on YouTube. My name there is Dre B. So YouTube/@Dre B. And we are live on Instagram. Good morning, Instagram. My Instagram name is @Dre Baldwin. All of you should be following me on YouTube and subscribe to my YouTube channel because I believe YouTube has the longest tail, so to speak, in the marketing language when it comes to people seeing these live streams later, because the recording is always on YouTube and you can control the speed, you can pick up where you left off, etc. You can't do that on other apps. And TikTok, I am suspended. I am suspended from TikTok until I think Thursday morning. So I'm not going to be live on TikTok again until probably Friday. I probably won't go live on Thursday. So Friday, I'll be back on TikTok, but I'm on the other 6 platforms that I just mentioned: YouTube 1, Instagram 2, Facebook 3, LinkedIn 4, Rumble 5, X 6. And we are going to still do what we're going to do this week, despite the fact that one of our 7 platforms is not available as far as the live streaming goes. But again, long term, I'm much more bullish on YouTube than I am TikTok, because we don't know what's going to happen with TikTok as far as the United States of America, the government having an issue with TikTok, first of all. And secondly, TikTok's community guidelines seem to be a little bit restrictive. Certain things you can't talk about on TikTok that I can openly talk about them on these apps. Everywhere else that y'all are listening to me right now, and nothing will happen. I can mention names, I can mention countries, I can mention certain things that either you may agree with or disagree with strongly, and nothing happens. But on TikTok, you say these things, you get warnings, you get kicked off, you get suspensions. I've been suspended from TikTok rather 5 or 6 times just in the last 6 months. So long term, regardless of what happens with the government, I am much more strongly betting on YouTube than I am TikTok, even though I will say for TikTok that they do offer virality when it comes to live streams in ways that the other platforms do not. It's harder to get so many people. You can get so many people watching you on a TikTok stream that you can't get on any of these other apps. So that's the reason why I still give TikTok a chance. But in the big picture, I'm not that big a fan of what TikTok is doing, because the censorship issues are really becoming a thing for me, as you can see. Or if TikTok gets sold to an American-based company, let's say Elon Musk or Kevin O'Leary or something like that, buys TikTok, now that changes the whole situation. As long as they change those community guidelines, now we got a whole different ballgame. But until or unless any of those things happen, what I just told you stands. So the topic here today, we're going to talk about the benefits of network marketing /MLM, also known as multi-level marketing. Some of you, if you have a negative view of this or you had a negative experience, you may call it a pyramid scheme. I'm going to tell you the benefits of actually having MLM experience, because I do have MLM experience. I am not in an MLM. It's been years since I've done anything MLM based, at least over a decade. But I do have some experience in it. I'll talk about that a little bit as we get into our points here today. And I want to help all of you understand this, because some of you, again, may have a negative view of multi-level marketing. But I'm going to tell you why my experience in multi-level marketing is the reason why I'm an entrepreneur to this very day, more than other factors such as going to college. Definitely more than going to college. Definitely more than having a 4-year degree in business with a focus in management and marketing, which I literally have. That is a true story. I learned more about business and entrepreneurship through my network marketing experience, which spanned about, all told, probably a year and a half, maybe a year, maybe 2 years. Let's just say total 2 years of network marketing experience, starting when I was in college, maybe 21 years of age. I learned more about business in the 2 years of network marketing experience that I have, live boots on the ground doing network marketing, than I learned in 4 years of college with a degree in business with a focus in management and marketing. That's an absolute fact of my life. All that said, let me introduce myself before we even get into these points. My name is Dre Baldwin. Many know me as Dre all day, former 9-year pro athlete, author of 40 books, created this brand called Work on Your Game. We help people with their performance, consistency, and producing results. You learn more about that by going to workonyourgameuniversity.com. Get on my email list for free by going to workonmygame.com. Those links are in my bios or descriptions wherever you're watching this. So, getting into this topic, if you hate multi-level marketing, or you have been conditioned to hate it because you haven't actually experienced it, or maybe somebody tried to sell you on something and you come to hate multi-level marketing, I'm making this especially for you. If you don't know what it is, again, I've already explained exactly. Well, I didn't explain what it is. Multi-level marketing is basically a business model. Most of you are probably familiar. Either you had somebody try to sell you something, pitch you something, or you've been in it yourself. It's a business model where a company has a product to sell and they get other distributors, that would be people like me and you, to sell the product for them. You get a commission for selling the product for them. That's not that much different. What makes multi-level marketing different is that you also have the opportunity to build a team. So you can get other people to sell on your behalf. So they are part of your team, and then they can get people to be part of their team, and they get people to be part of their team. And then what you would do is you would get an override on every sale that is made. So if I was just selling, let's take a company like Herbalife. All you heard of Herbalife, they've been around for decades. So let's say I go work for Herbalife and I'm going to sell Herbalife products to my friends and family and whatever customers I have. That's pretty normal. There are plenty of people out there with jobs in sales where you are selling a product that's not yours. You didn't create it, but you have access to it. You sell the product. Every time you make a sale, you get a commission. That's normal. What makes multi-level marketing different is that you can recruit other people into the business. And let's say I'm selling, and then I get you to be a salesperson. Now you're selling Herbalife too, but because I introduce you to the business, every time you make a sale and make some money, I make some money too, just because I introduced you to the business, and then I can get more and more people. I can build a whole team to the point that I'm making more money based off of the sales of the people I've recruited and their recruits. I'm making more money based off that than I'm making off actually making sales myself. So I don't actually have to be a salesperson anymore. I become much more of a leader, much more of basically a team builder and a business owner. That's what multi-level marketing is about. Generally, I'm giving you a general overview of it. And again, if you go on the internet and ask what is multi-level marketing, you're going to get 20 different responses, and half of them are going to be positive. No, I say about 75% of them are going to be negative, and about 25% of them are going to be positive. I'm going to give you the positive sides of it. Are there some negative sides? Possibly, depending on how it gets used and how people decide to operate in the business. But I'm going to tell you, again, my experience, why it's beneficial, even though, let me be clear, I'll tell you this up front as a disclaimer. In my, I would say all told, added together, about 2 years of experience in network marketing. It's been it's been more than a decade since I've done anything with network marketing, even talked to anybody in network marketing, at least that I knew they were. It did not make me rich. I did not win any awards. I won some awards for just making sales, but I didn't win any cars or anything like that. I was never on the stage as some high performer who outperformed everybody else. I didn't do any of those things. And I made more money doing other things than I did in network marketing. I would say all told, in my experience in network marketing, I probably spent more money than I made. I'm saying all of that up front. Okay. So I'm not saying this to pitch you or to tell you to go join some network marketing company. I'm going to still tell you, despite everything I've told you so far, why it was beneficial for me. And I'm going to answer questions and comments after I get through these points. First point. And again, I'm telling you the benefits of network marketing experience. Number one is you get introduced to personal development. And if you're a follower of my work, one of these live streams, I'm often talking about, these days I've been talking about current events, but the basis of what we do over here at Work on Your Game is personal and professional development. I got introduced to that through network marketing. So I've always been into reading books, and I would go to, back in the days, and when I say back in the day, we're talking 25 years ago, or maybe even up to 15 years ago. If you wanted to get a book, you had to go to the actual bookstore. And you had to actually walk in a physical place where there's a whole bunch of books and you would buy the books off the shelf. Bookstores still exist, but there are a lot fewer of them than there used to be. I would always go in bookstores, and I was always interested in the sports section because I played sports, and the what they used to call the human psychology section was now they call personal development, which is basically people writing about the way the human brain works and how it leads to the actions that we take or don't take, etc. I was always into that stuff, but I didn't know there was an actual title for it. So my first experience in network marketing, this is in my hometown of Philadelphia, PA. I went to a meeting, and the man on the stage at the end of the meeting, because if you ever been to one of these meetings, you know that about half the people in the room are already in the business, and the other half the people in the room are just guests that got brought to the meeting to possibly get recruited into the business or become customers. I was one of the guests. So at the end of the meeting, the man on the stage had a message for the people who are already in the business or the people who were about to join. He said, if you're going to build a business, you have to also build yourself. And when he said that, that made perfect sense. And it was 100% correct. So again, even though you may have some negative ideas about network marketing, there's a bunch of things that get taught there that are 100% true. And this one is 100% true. If you are going to build a business, especially if you're going to build a team in your business, meaning you're going to have other people working for you, you must build up yourself, because if you don't develop yourself as a person, you will be unqualified to lead others. Others won't follow you because they don't see you as a person who is worth following. And he was 100% correct on this point. And to that end, what he said was, if you're joining a business today, or if you're already in the business, make sure you're investing in personal development. And I never heard anyone use the phrase personal development. This was like 2002, something like that. And then he said, the personal development you get is the books that are outside of the room, because this is in a hotel. You go to the little table outside of the room, and there's some nice ladies sitting there selling personal development books. You need to buy those books. You need to read them, and you need to be investing in yourself to build yourself up so you can build the team. And he name dropped some authors I never heard of, like Brian Tracy, Tony Robbins, Jim Rohn, Zig Ziglar, Napoleon Hill. I never heard of these people at that time. And I couldn't even afford the books. I'm a broke college kid at this point. I got brought to this meeting, and I got a ride there and a ride back. So I went on eBay later on, like a couple months later after this, and I went and looked up a couple of the books because I remembered the titles of some of them that I could not afford. And it was, the first one I got was Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And I bought on eBay. This is like a pirated copy of the book. It was for 99 cents. And it was basically a Word document. And then I bought a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. Same thing, 99 cents, pirated copy of the book. Those are what I could afford at the time. And reading those, when I read Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, it was the first time I had ever learned that there was a way that you could purposely and intentionally alter your habits of thought that would lead to a change in the way you behaved. I always had an inkling in my mind that if you change the way you thought, it would change your behavior. I always kind of had an idea in my mind that was a thing, but I could not have explained it back then. But this is the reason why Robert Greene is my favorite author, 48 Laws of Power. When I came across that book, I said, okay, when you take in this material and you consider it over and over again, you play around with it in your mind, eventually it changes the way that you act. And that's 100% true. So, hey, good morning, Carlo. What's going on, O-Dog, over there on YouTube? So when I read that book, it told me, oh, there's a whole process to this. Because again, I never heard of personal development. And then Robert Kiyosaki, of course, his book is not, of course, let me not assume. Robert Kiyosaki's book explains basically the mindset of entrepreneurship as opposed to the mindset of employment. And again, I had never heard anyone explain it. And Robert Kiyosaki's book made it pretty clear exactly what the mindset of an entrepreneur is as opposed to the mindset of an employee, because that's the entire frame of his book. The book is called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. For those who haven't read it, you should. The concept of the book is that Robert Kiyosaki's actual biological father was a guy with a lot of academic achievement. He had college degrees, etc., and he had a job working for the state. And what happened is eventually the state didn't need him anymore. His biological dad got fired from his job, and pretty much was, even though he had all these successes on his resume as far as like his career and his college degrees, etc., by the time he was in his older years, he was pretty much check to check and pretty much broke. He didn't have much money, despite the fact that he had all the accomplishments that we get taught in school and by our parents we're supposed to go get. And that was his poor dad, quote unquote. Now, the other guy, the other dad in the title is Robert Kiyosaki's best friend. His dad was an entrepreneur. Now, this guy was like a school dropout. I don't know when he dropped out, maybe middle school, high school, dropped out of school, and he had started his own business. And he owned a bunch of businesses around town. This is in Hawaii. That's where Robert Kiyosaki grew up. He owned a bunch of businesses around town. And even though he didn't have much formal education, he had no degrees or any of these credentials, quote unquote, or quote unquote qualifications that you hear a lot of people talking about these days. This guy had a whole bunch of money. He was rich. He was financially rich. He didn't need to work for money, and he had money working for him. He had a whole bunch of people working for him. He owned a bunch of businesses, and he was the guy who taught his son, and then Robert Kiyosaki, his son's best friend, he taught him how business actually worked. Now, I believe this was based on a true story. I don't know if he made up a little bit of it in order to make the book sound good, but the whole point and the angle of the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, taught me that there's a whole different way of looking at money in business that I did not know existed until I read that book. So that's the introduction to personal development that I got from my network marketing experience. And the way I define personal development is material that educates and inspires you to grow and advance as a person from the inside out. That's what personal development is. It's working on yourself so that your thoughts lead to your actions lead to your outcomes. So anyone who's growing over time, somehow, some way, you must invest in personal development. As I tell people all the time, if you've never heard me say this, you will hear me say it many times. The only involuntary growth that human beings experience is during the period of puberty. Puberty usually starts around age, 12, and it ends maybe somewhere around age 21 or 25. That's the time when any of you, or actually we could just say all the way up to age 21 through 25, human beings just grow without even trying. All right, any of you has a child, you know that your child is going to get bigger and they're going to grow, they're going to get taller, their brain develops, their reproductive organs develop, male and female, they just grow without even trying to grow. Once you get to about age 25, if you're going to grow any more between age 25 and age 100, you have to do it on purpose, meaning you have to actually try to grow. When you're 15, you're going to grow without trying. When you're 35, you will not grow if you're not trying to grow. Meaning if you don't pick up another book after you leave school, and studies show most people do not, you're not going to grow anymore. You're not going to get any smarter. You're not going to get any more valuable. You're not going to bring any more value to the marketplace. You must intentionally do things to keep growing after puberty ends. Most people never do that. And this is what personal development is. It's the growth that you do on purpose and intentionally, other than the involuntary growth that you experience in your formative years. Moving on, point number 2. In network marketing, you learn, and I'm talking here today about the benefits of network marketing / MLM. Number 2, you learn basic principles of business and ownership that, again, most people don't get these. We're not taught these. I have a formal education. You could technically say that I'm a success story of the formal education system. I say I created my success despite my formal education. So I went to school, got good enough grades, went to college, have a 4-year college degree in business with a focus in management and marketing. And I learned more about business and ownership in a year or 2 of network marketing experience than I learned in 4 years of college. Why is this? Because school does not teach you how to be a business owner. It does not teach you how to be an entrepreneur. School is designed to turn you into an employee, and it does a very good job of pumping out employees. That's what school does. If you're very successful in school, usually that leads you to getting a really good job. That's what school is. Many people who go on to be business owners either don't finish school or they were mediocre students. By the time I graduated college, I was a mediocre student. I graduated with a C average. I think my GPA when I graduated was like a 2.6 or something like that, which is a C, C is pretty much average. I became an average student by the time I got to college because I realized while I was in college that what the teachers were teaching, the professors were teaching, was training me to go get a job, and I didn't want to get a job. The reason I didn't want to get a job when I was still in college is because I could only look at, I was in college. I graduated college in 2004. So the internet existed, but it wasn't so much that you could see so much of what everybody was doing the way we have it today, where I can get online and I can look at 1,000 different people's lives on the internet now. Back then you had the internet, but social media wasn't a thing. So I can only look to the adults who were around me. So who were the adults around me? My parents and my professors, my school teachers, parents, maybe family members, people in my neighborhood, and school teachers. And here's the thing I noticed about all of them. They all had jobs. Here's the other thing I noticed about it, especially when it came to my parents and the people in my community. They all talked about their work as if it was a necessary evil. And this bothered me a lot. Every adult around me growing up talked about work as a necessary evil. What do I mean by that? They talked about it as if like this is something that I have to do, not something that I get to do. And they never talked about it like they were excited. They never seemed excited. Like I'm recording this right now. It's Monday morning, 8 o'clock in the morning. The adults that I knew never seemed excited on Sunday night about having to go to work on Monday. They never seemed excited about the prospect of I'm going to work tomorrow. I they seem to dread going to work. And again, they always went to work. And one of the reasons I became as disciplined as I am, because my parents got up and went to work every day, even though I know they didn't love necessarily their jobs. They did go to work every day, but they never seemed excited about the work. So me looking at them, and my parents were really big on make sure you go to school, get good grades, get a degree, et cetera, et cetera. And then, of course, you had the school teachers saying that same thing. Then the people in my neighborhood, they all had jobs. None of them seemed excited to go to work. This bothered me a lot because when I'm in college, I'm like, okay, I'm going to graduate after 4 years and then I'm going to have a degree. And then what am I supposed to go do? Get a job. Like everybody else has a job, but they don't seem excited about their job. So why would I want to spend the next 40 to 60 years of my life doing something that I'm not excited about doing? And I'm going to college just so I can get ready to do that. All I'm going to do now, I got a degree. So neither of my parents had went to college when I entered college. My mom did get her degree while I was still in college. She had put it on hold when she had kids. But I'm like, all I'm going to do is the same thing that my parents are doing. I'm just going to do it at a little bit higher level. I'll probably make a little bit more money because I have a degree and I'm starting at maybe a little bit higher level than they started. But all I'm going to be is the same as them. It's just at a little bit higher level. Now, how did I get to that insight? Well, I'm going to be honest with you. I got that insight through network marketing. That's what they would talk about. They would talk about this in the meetings. Any of you been in network marketing, if you actually been in it, not at a meeting, but you actually been in it, this is what they start teaching you. If you go to enough meetings, you learn this stuff. And I've always been a sponge for information and knowledge and insights. The way I'm able to talk to you all so often because I take in a lot and I'm able to give out a lot. And one of the things they would start teaching you once you got into the business, they would just start basically breaking all your false beliefs about money, success, careers, etc. And they knew that most people, and this is true, most people had a formal idea about how to make money and how to have a business and how to have a career. So what they would do is just take all the stuff that they knew you already believed, and they would just start breaking it down and showing you why it's essentially bullshit, which is, okay, you go get a degree. What's the purpose of you getting a degree? So you can go get a job. The problem is when you have a job, eventually you are not going to have that job anymore. You're going to have to retire on a percentage of what you were earning at work, and what you were earning at work when you were actively working wasn't enough. And now you're going to retire on a percentage of that. And they would just break the whole thing down, and they were 100% spot on. I'm not saying this applies to every single person. Of course, there are exceptions to everything, but generally they were 100% correct. And I thought to myself, damn, they're right. And I didn't even know for sure, because you got to understand when you go in one of these meetings, a lot of the people in the meetings are like, they were the ages of my parents. So when you go to these network marketing meetings, at least the experience that I had when I was in college and went to this meeting, I was like 20, 21. Most of the people in the meeting, though, these are grown adults with bills, mortgages, car payments, full-time jobs, kids at home. These are people in their 30s, 40s, and 50s, grown adults. So the people on the stage at the meetings, they were really talking to the adults. Like, look, you have a job right now. You got a degree maybe to get your job. Your job is not paying you enough money for you to take care of your life right now. Or maybe you're making just enough so that you can take care of everything, but you don't have enough money to put any money away. You can't make investments. You can't do anything extra for your kids. You can't go on a vacation. You don't have any more money at the end of the month, or sometimes you have more month at the end of the money than you have a job. And they would say job stands for just over broke, J-O-B, just over broke. And when they would say it, all the people, the adults, like the grown men and women in the room, they would all nod their heads like, yeah, this guy is 100% correct. And even though I didn't have that experience because I wasn't a responsible adult yet, I'm still a college student, I could look at my parents and listen to what they were saying and said, yeah, this is pretty much how my parents live. They would always say things like, my parents would say things like, do I look like I'm made of money? When me and my sister would ask for something extra, do I look like I'm made of money? Money doesn't grow on trees. We're not rich. And my mom say that to me once. And my dad would say things like that as well. So when the people in the meetings would say stuff and they would explain the life of a grown man or woman who had a job and did all the right things, but still wasn't financially where they wanted to be, I said, yeah, this is exactly what I see. That's all I saw around me. Now, again, had I come from a different environment and had I had different influences, maybe it would not have had the same impact on me. But based on the experiences that I had, that's exactly what I saw. What these people were laying out was spot on, 100% accurate. Therefore, I was willing to listen to their alternative. Therefore, when I read Robert Kiyosaki, I said, okay, whatever this guy's offering is different than what I see the adults around me doing. So let me listen to what this guy says. There's something here. So entrepreneurship, and again, I never been taught entrepreneurship. I was never taught business ownership, even though I'll say it again, have a 4-year college degree in business. They didn't teach entrepreneurship. They did not teach business ownership. And again, how could they? Who's teaching you? A professor who has a full-time job teaching. How are they going to teach you entrepreneurship when they have a full-time job teaching? It doesn't make any sense. So I learned about creating and plugging into systems that generate revenue as opposed to only trading time for money. And trading time for money is not necessarily a bad thing. I still trade time for money at times in my own business to this very day. At the same time, what they explain, the MLM guys, they would explain that you want to plug into a system that can generate money for you so that the system is doing more work than a person. And that made perfect sense to me. You want to build networks. You want to join networks. And they would say when a regular person wants to make money, what they do is they go look for work. But when an entrepreneur wants to make money, what they do is they build or they connect to a network. And those are two different approaches to making money. So moving and people who own businesses, even people who have jobs, if you think about it, whoever owns the company that you work for, what are they doing? They're leveraging the efforts of other people. That's how they're making so much money. The person who owns the business, the reason they're able to write everybody a paycheck every 2 weeks because they have so much money is because they are leveraging your efforts and the efforts of the 100 other people who work there. And that's how they're making their money. Whereas opposed to you personally, you only make money when you work. And if you don't work, you don't make any money. But the person who owns the company you work for, if they don't work, they still make money because they're making money off the efforts of a bunch of other people. And this is how they help you understand the idea, the general concept of this is why if you get into this business, network marketing, you want to build a team. You don't want to just be the best salesperson and just sell the product over and over and over again. Again, you get in Herbalife, you don't want to just sell the products because now you're in the same situation. All you're doing is selling, make money, sell, make money, sell, make money. You stop selling, you stop making money. But if you build a team and you have other people making money and you make money off the money that they make, now you can make money even if you're not working. So this is the whole concept of making money in your sleep. This is one way of doing it. And again, I didn't see any adults doing this outside of that network marketing experience. This is why my ears were open when I heard what they were saying, because it made perfect sense. And again, Robert Kiyosaki, same thing. I told you his rich dad owned businesses. And when his rich dad was not at work, he was still making money because the people who worked at his businesses, they would do stuff that he earned money off of. So this made perfect sense to me. And again, no one has said it before. Third point, we're talking here today about the business benefits of network marketing experience. Number 3, you learn a whole lot about people. This one is a big one. A lot of human beings today, these days especially, and especially people who are younger, let's say you're under the age of 30, do not have a lot of human experience, a lot of experience actually dealing with real life human beings. Because if you're under 30, you've been raised on the internet. The whole time you've been alive, or at least old enough to think for yourself, there's been the internet, there's been smartphones, there's been social media. So you get a lot of your human engagement by being on social media. Whereas if you are over the age of 30, I would say even 35, your age 35 and up, then any of you listening to this right now, you got the best of both worlds, because you are young enough that you did get engaged in the internet and social media. Like any of you listening to me right now, somehow, some way you're engaged in the internet and social media to where you're watching this. And at the same time, you are old enough that you remember the era when if you want to talk to a person, you had to literally talk to a person. You couldn't type it in a phone. It wasn't even, you were old enough that you remember era where there wasn't even text messaging, where if you wanted to talk to somebody, you had to wait till you saw them in person, or you had to pick up the phone and literally call them and have a voice conversation. That was pretty much the only ways you could communicate other than sending a physical letter to somebody's house. So when you're in network marketing, you learn a whole lot about people because that's all you're doing. The whole business is talking to people, excuse me. Network marketing is all about talking to people, whether you're talking to somebody trying to sell them the product, or you're trying to get them to join the business, or a combination of both. That's all you're doing. And when you combine people and money together, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you a reality of life. You combine people and money, you learn about people very, very, very quickly. You learn a whole lot about people as soon as you bring money into a situation. It's a crash course in humanity when you start dealing with people and money. And why is this? I'm going to tell you why this is from my experience. Many human beings have very, very unhealthy relationships with money. Many adults have very unhealthy relationships with money. Their money mindsets are extremely, I don't even know what word to use here. Just let's say damaged, for lack of a better term. And in the network marketing business, all you're doing is talking to everyday people, usually average everyday people who you somehow are connected to or that you meet. And you're asking them questions about money. You're introducing them to a new concept of business. Because when you bring people to these network marketing meetings, again, this is important because when I got introduced to network marketing, I was like 20, 21 years of age. My mind was pretty open to pretty much anything. I hadn't even graduated from college yet, but I knew that what I saw the adults around me doing, I didn't want to do. I knew I didn't want to do that. So I was kind of open to anything being presented. But imagine somebody 47 years old, somebody 52, somebody 31. They have a house, they got a mortgage, they got car payments, they have kids. They have a job that they put themselves in position to get that job. You bring them to the meeting and you start beating down all of their false beliefs about money and success and life and careers. And now basically you're holding a mirror up to the way that they're living and telling them that, hey, there's a better way. You would think. Now, idealistically, some of you might think this is incorrect, but you might think that if you just start showing people all the way that they have been living is wrong and show them a better way, they would be like, oh, damn, I'm glad you showed me that. Let me change. Do you think that's what happens? No, that is not what happens. You know what happens when you start showing people and you start knocking down their false beliefs and showing them that maybe the way that they've been thinking and living and acting might be wrong, is that you get a ton of resistance. That's what happens. You get a ton of resistance, a whole lot of pushback. And that's what happened. And that's why I'm saying you get a crash course in dealing with people, because when you show people something that pushes their buttons of insecurities and uncertainties, and money is one of those topics that really pushes on people's insecurities and uncertainties about life, you learn a whole lot really, really, really fast. So any of you want to learn about human beings, I'm telling you the shortcut to doing it. Start talking to people about money all the time, as much as possible. You will learn more about humans in 6 months than you would learn in 10 years doing anything else. And in network marketing, again, this is all you're doing. So you meet somebody, let's say your uncle, and you say to your uncle, hey, I got into this business. I want to sit down and show it to you. So you sit down with your uncle and you give them the presentation, or you bring your sponsor, somebody who knows the business better. They give the presentation, they go through the whole thing. It makes perfect sense. Usually the product makes perfect sense. And then you're offering them the product. You're also offering them business opportunity. There's a whole presentation behind this. Again, any of you seen network marketing, you know how it works. And then you get into the point of asking them, hey, do you want to get into this business? Do you want to buy the product? Whatever. And then that's when all the resistance starts coming up. And it's a very interesting thing. I can't even describe it in a way that would do it justice for you to have actually learned it. That's why I am so appreciative of my experience having been in this business. As I told you, unhealthy relationships with money that a lot of people have, that they got from their youth. How'd they get it from their youth? They got it from their parents. Their parents got it from their parents. Their parents got it from their parents. And this is generational. It just gets passed on. So a lot of learning that I did in multi-level marketing and uncover my own inadequacies and my own unhealthy mindsets with money as well. The good news for me is that I learned about it when I was 20 instead of learning about it when I was 40. I learned about it at a very early age. So my mind, again, was already open to let me see what I can take in and what ways I can look at things, as opposed to, again, being 55 years old and then somebody coming and start giving you some stuff that you don't want to hear because you've believed different your entire life. It's much harder to change somebody's mind when they're 50 than it is to change their mind when they're 20. So the younger you are and the earlier you get introduced to this stuff, the better. Moving on, point number 4. We're talking here today about the benefits of network marketing / MLM. Number 4, you embrace learning outside of your formal education. At least once you get into it. If you buy into it, and I should be clear on this as well, there are many people who I try to introduce the concept of network marketing to, and they resisted and they were not open to it, and there were no further conversations. So not everybody you introduce is going to say yes, even if it makes sense. A lot of people do things that don't make sense. A lot of people hear things that make sense and still do nothing. All right, can you agree? Of course. So once somebody decides to get involved in the business, you have to do a whole lot of learning outside of your formal education, which again, for me was great because I was open to it. But for other people, a lot of it is unlearning. You have to unlearn a lot of the bullshit that you have believed for the last 10, 20, 30 years of your life, because a lot of things that you will need to be a successful entrepreneur are the exact opposite of the things that you needed to be a successful student and or a successful employee. Not in all cases, but in many cases, this is the reality. So I started looking forward to the training events. I would go to all these training events, and they had little tapes, cassette tapes. Y'all remember cassette tapes back in the day? They had little cassette tapes. I would listen to them over and over again. I would read the books because, again, personally, this is not something that network marketing made me do. This is just a personal trait of mine. I am a sponge. The reason why I can do live streams for an hour or two every day to you all and put out all the content I put out is not because I'm just some genius to just randomly think of things. It's because I'm a sponge. I take in as much material as I put out. I read a whole lot of books. I listen to podcasts. I listen to YouTube videos. I take trainings. I take courses. I invest in coaching. I invest in these things to learn. So I have so much within me that I can put a whole lot of things out of me. That's just the type of person that I am. So when I got introduced to network marketing, I saw that there was a lot of training material and things to learn that were based on things that made perfect sense to me. And then I compared that, juxtaposed that with what I was learning in my college classroom, and then looked at my college classmates. And I said, most of these people, all these mofos about to go get a job working with somebody for the next 40 years of their lives. I don't want to be like them. I said, I need something else. So when network marketing got introduced, I said, this is perfect. This is an escape route from what I was about to get. Even though I still wanted to get my degree, this was an escape route. And I identified early that in network marketing, I was getting a business education that was going to benefit me more than what I was learning in school. I'll give you a little anecdote here. After I got out of, this is like maybe a little bit after college, or I might have still been in college. I reached out to one of my college coaches. He had been my coach in college, and I reached out to him and introduced him to the business opportunity. I sent it to everybody. When you're in network marketing, you know what they tell you. You want to introduce your opportunity to every single person that you know. Anybody you ever know, introduce them to the opportunity. So I reached out to one of my old college coaches, and I sent him, it was probably like a tape or something like that had all the information. And they would tell you, like, if you're talking to somebody who's older than you and you have respect for them and you're younger, then send them some material. You don't go do the presentation because they're not going to respect you as some business expert because they're 20 years older than you. So you can't do it. So you send them the material. So I sent him the material. And then the whole process was you follow up with them and then ask them what they think and have a conversation. So I followed up with him, and he said to me, he said, Dre, I'm not interested in the business. He said, I'm not going to do it. But this is what he said. He said, if this that you showed me is true and what they're sharing is accurate, then what they have here will be more valuable for you than your college degree. And he was 100% correct. And that's why I'm explaining it to you right now. And that's what he said. And he was saying no. He was telling me no, he wasn't interested. He did not become a customer. He didn't join the business. But he said, this is actually very valuable if you apply it, because this could be better for you than what you're getting in college. And I don't know how he knew that, but he knew it. And I identified early that, again, what I was learning in network marketing was teaching me business and entrepreneurship. And I already knew. And I'll explain to you all why I knew this, because, again, I have a college degree. And I remember being in my classes, like any of you who went to college, depending on the size of your school, it might be different, that your last like 2 years, let's say, of college, you're in your classes that are specifically for your major. Like your first year or two, you might be messing around, dabbling, just taking random classes, silly stuff that's not generally not really that useful in my experience. But your last couple of years, you're really just buckling down on, all right, these are classes I have to take so I can get my degree, and I got to get this many credits for my major, et cetera. So my last 2 years, I'm in all these business focused classes, and on my campus at the time, it was basically the same people in every class. So every business class that was for my major, you seen the same people over and over again. It was like in the business majors, probably like 30, 40 of us. We were all in all the same classes. And I remember sitting in those classes and listening to the professors give their lectures. And then we would have homework and all this stuff we had to do, and assignments and programs and projects and tests and all that stuff. And I remember looking around at my classmates, and I'm like, these people are all really diligent students. I was not a diligent student. I'm going to tell you all that up front, full disclosure. I was not a diligent student. By the time I got to college, I realized what the game was. Actually, about halfway through college, I realized the game was, okay, if I could just do good enough, I can get a C, I can get a degree, I can graduate. Because I knew that I wanted to play basketball after college. I knew that's what I wanted to do. And then after that, I didn't know, but then I got introduced to network marketing. I said, I'm going to play basketball and then I'm going to start a business. I knew that's what I was going to do. Now, again, I graduated college in 2004. So do not think that I'm not some psychic Miss Cleo that knew this was going to come about. There was no YouTube. There was no Instagram. There was no social media. None of this shit existed. So it's not like I knew this was going to come. But I knew I was going to become an entrepreneur somehow, some way, after I read Kiyosaki and after my experience in network marketing. Had this not come about, hey, maybe I would have become some big time network marketer. Never know. But I knew I wasn't going to have a regular employment. I knew that was not for me. And as soon as I got introduced to network marketing, there was no chance I was ever going to do that. So looking around at my classmates, I noticed that they were all really good students. Like they would do all the homework. They would do the assignments. They would be really studious on the group projects. We would be in classes. And I don't know if any of you who went to college, if your college experience was like mine, I spent most of my time in college playing basketball, partying, and talking to girls. Those are the things that I did. And I did enough schoolwork to graduate. That's what I did. So I would be up late. I would have 8 a.m. classes, but I'd be up till 12, 1 in the morning, sometimes drinking. I don't drink or smoke anymore. I haven't done any of that in probably a decade and a half, more than a decade and a half, since college, pretty much. But then I did drink. In college, I did drink. I didn't smoke anything, didn't do any drugs, but I would consume alcohol. So sometimes you're drunk. You might be hungover from the night before. You're out partying. You're out with some girl till 2 in the morning. Then I would have class. And I would try to get to class as often as possible, but I'd be falling asleep in class. The professors would be calling me out like, yo, you falling asleep in class? I'm going to kick you out. Don't be falling asleep in the class. I wouldn't take any notes. My last year in college, I didn't even buy the textbooks. I would try to get through the class without buying the textbooks. I wasn't buying the textbooks. I was a very, very mediocre student. And compared to my classmates, and again, it's the same people you see in every class, I could tell two things. Number one, I could tell that they were actually serious about doing good in class. Most of them were very actually serious about doing good in class. I could just look around and just see, taking notes. They got the textbook out. They did the homework. They're asking questions in class. I didn't know what the hell was going on. And number two, I had the impression, now again, this is just my fault in my own head. I had the impression that many of them were looking at me like, this mofo ain't going to do nothing when he gets out. Because I was not serious at all. I was doing just enough to get by. And I knew what I was doing. I was doing it intentionally. I was doing just enough to get by. I said, I can get a C in this class without really trying. And that's all I did. I was smart enough to get a C in most of these classes, which is why I graduated with a C average. And I realized, again, through my network marketing experience, because this happened about halfway through college, that they would tell you in the meetings, like the way school was set up is designed to get you prepared to go get a job. So then I took that knowledge and I went to class in college and I saw, oh, that makes perfect sense because all of these people are going to get really good jobs after they graduate from school, because that's how do you get a good job out of college? I don't know. It's a little bit different now because of the market and people having student loan debt is crazy and all that. But generally, let's say up to about 2010, what qualifies you to get a good job after you graduate from college? If you went to some like an Ivy League college, like Harvard or Yale or something like that, it might be your relationships and your network, right? The reason people go to Ivy League colleges is because of the relationships and the networks. That's the real reason why you go to those schools. It's not because the information on those campuses is better than the information at a different school. That's not the situation. So if you went to a quote unquote regular college, the thing that got you a good job out of college was the fact that you got good grades in college. So the better student you were, you got a good GPA, you got some good recommendations, maybe you had a solid internship, then you can go get a good job getting out of college. You ain't got nothing else. Ain't like you got any career accomplishments. You haven't done anything. You came out of college. You don't know anything. Everybody who graduates college thinks that they're smart. You realize that you're 10 years later, you realize how much you didn't know when you get out of college. So the only thing that gets you a good job is having good grades and being a good student, because that's what it prepares you to do. I was an average student. So I said, if all of us in this class, all 40 of us all went for the same jobs, I'm not getting any of the jobs. All of them are going to beat me. Everybody in this classroom is going to beat me, because they're all better students than me, and they're all more disciplined in classwork than I am, and they're all more serious about doing well as students than I am. I can't beat them at this game, so I'm not even going to try to win this game. I could beat them if I wanted to try, but I didn't want to try. So I want to get in this other game. So I knew that this wasn't the lane for me, and that's why when I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, when I got introduced to network marketing, and the internet was, again, it was a thing, but it was nothing like what we have now. I could see that it was growing. I knew that I was headed somewhere in that direction, but I didn't know exactly where or how or when. But luckily, all this stuff came about. The point being here, folks, is that I was looking for it. That's the key point, is that I was looking. And because I was looking, when the opportunities came, I jumped on them. So when YouTube came, I jumped on it. When social media came, I jumped on it. When I saw opportunities to be a salesperson, I jumped on it. When I saw opportunities to build what we now call having your own brand, I jumped on it because I was looking. Had I not been looking, I wouldn't have seen these things. So moving on, we're talking here today about the benefits of network marketing / MLM. Number 5, you learn how to sell. If I could tell everyone listening to this, I don't care your age, don't care your background, don't care what you do for a living or what you want to do for a living. If I give you one tip, one skill that you could develop that will take you further than any other skill, is you must learn how to sell. Don't care what you're selling. First thing you got to sell is yourself. You must learn how to sell. And if I was to go higher level than that, and I would just say simple communication skills, but sales are part of communication. You can't sell something without communicating. You must learn how to sell. In network marketing, you are doing, and again, this is another benefit for people who are over the age of, let's say, 35. You get real life experience in what we call nose to nose, belly to belly sales. Some of you have never even heard that phrase. If you're under 30, you probably don't know what I'm talking about. Nose to nose, belly to belly sales means literally sitting down with an actual human being in real life and trying to sell them something right there, face to face to them. Sitting in people's living rooms and trying to sell them something. Sitting down at Starbucks and trying to sell somebody something right across the table, like literal sale. I'm not talking about a Zoom call. I'm not talking about a phone call. I'm not talking about a website or a sales funnel or an email. I'm talking literally talking to a human being face to face in the flesh and trying to sell them something right there on the spot. Network marketing gave me that experience, is one of the biggest reasons why I am an entrepreneur to this very day. Selling on Zoom is nothing compared to selling in somebody's living room. Go to somebody else's house, sit in their living room, a husband and a wife, and try to sell them something is 10 times harder than getting on a Zoom call trying to sell something. 100 times harder than sending somebody to a website where they can read the website and buy it on their own. That shit is easy compared to having to, again, face-to-face, nose-to-nose, as they say, belly-to-belly sales that many of you, if you're under age of 30, you will probably, well, you could still get the experience, but it's not as prevalent as it was back then. I would tell everyone, I would even tell my kids this, that you need to get a job in sales, and as quickly as possible, get a job in sales. It doesn't matter what you're selling. You could be selling, I remember, like these days, you'll still see kids out there doing it. It's, again, not as prevalent as it was, but you still see kids doing it. I'll be out in Miami and some kids will walk by and they'll have like a box of, the little candy, and they're selling Snickers bars and Skittles and all that stuff for their fundraising so they can send their football team to a tournament or something like that. That is sales, if they learn how to actually sell. Now, I got to be clear about this and add a disclaimer, because I see kids doing this, especially black kids I see doing this, and they're not really learning sales skills. All they're doing is just walking around. Basically, they're asking for donations. That's not sales. Let me be very clear about that. Any of you who coaches youth sports and you send the kids from your football or basketball team out to a local grocery store to stand outside the store and ask people to either donate or try to sell candy, they had to actually be selling, not just walking up to people and saying, hey, can you sponsor our football team for $10? I sometimes will give them money, but that's not sales. You didn't sell anything. I just decided to give you money. You didn't actually sell. Actual selling is you must present yourself in a professional way. Even if you're 12 years old, you share what it is you're offering, and then you ask for the sale. There is a process to selling. You got to ask for it. I'll give you an example of this, the way this was done right. It was a white kid, as a matter of fact. I'm in Miami. I was sitting outside of a Capital One cafe, which is like a Starbucks. And I was sitting outside. This is before I was wearing a suit all the time, because you can't sit outside Miami with a suit on. But this is a white t-shirt, shorts. I'm sitting out there, and this white kid walks up to me, and I think he was a Boy Scout. And he had the uniform on and everything. He's probably 10 years old. And he said, excuse me, sir. And that's first of all. He had a professional approach. And then he said, hey, I'm with such and such Boy Scout troop, and we're selling coupon books that offer you a bunch of coupons for stores and he mentioned a couple stores. And he said, it's only $10. Would you like to purchase one? And I was not going to use any of the coupons that he was offering in that book. And I said to him, young man, I didn't call him young man. I don't like people use that phrase, but I said, I probably wouldn't use any of those coupons in that book, but because I respect the professionalism of your approach, I'll buy it from you. And I bought it from him for $10. And I bought it off him. And then he shook my hand. He offered to shake my hand. And then he walked away. He had a firm handshake. And then he walked away. That's how you sell. What I see often, and I see this often in the hood, and I'm calling out the black folks for this, because it's the black leaders, the fathers and the coaches who send these young black guys out. And I had this happen. I was at Target. I was coming out of a Target in Miami, and there was a young kid. He's probably 15 or 16 years old. And he was like, hey, sir, would you sponsor our basketball team to go to some AAU tournament? He didn't really sell. It wasn't really a sale that he was doing. He approached me like black guy to black guy. And I looked relatively young. Again, didn't have a suit on at that time. I gave him $20 to his Cash App or something like that, but he didn't really sell. And you're not learning sales if that's all you're doing. You're just standing there saying, hey, give us some money so we can go to our tournament. You're standing with a little can and people just drop $5 in there while they're at the stoplight. That ain't sales. Sales is you have to actually talk and you got to actually present and you have to actually ask for the sale. And I find a lot of people shortcutting this. When back in the days, you had to actually sit down and sit in somebody's living room and actually make a presentation and try to close. That's when you really learn how to sell. And again, this is why I told you, I'm going to have my kids, they're going to get sales jobs. You're going to learn how to sell. I step out of a grocery store these days. There'll be a girl with like Girl Scout cookies would you buy some Girl Scout cookies? Or these days you still see people doing it, but again, is not nearly the way it used to because everybody goes to the internet now. But I would suggest any of you who has kids or any of you who still wants to learn, go find somehow, some way that you can actually sell stuff where you can get a whole lot of experience. You can get a whole lot of reps. You need to get reps selling. My network marketing experience, I got a ton of repetitions in selling. And when you're in sales, first of all, you learn how to open and get somebody's attention. You learn how to present your product or service. You learn how to actually give the presentation over and over again. You need to get really good at that. You learn how to ask for the sale. You can't sell anything you don't ask for the fucking money. A lot of people don't know how to ask for the money because you have unhealthy relationships with money. So you got to ask for the money. And then you got to deal with people's objections because they're going to give you reasons why they're not going to buy. And some of those people, you got to turn them over and turn it into a sale. Not everybody's going to buy no matter what you say, but you got to be willing to stay in the conversation and try to close that sale when somebody gives you some type of objection or some type of resistance. You must learn how to sell. I remember when I first got into network marketing and they have like this like boot camp training you go to. It's like 3 days of boot camp training for people who just joined. And I remember the trainer who was doing the training, he said, I want to let all y'all know something. This is sales. And because see, when you go to the meeting, like the intro meeting where they're trying to get you to join, they don't say it's sales. They just say, hey, they make it sound real easy, right? And you've been to a network marketing meeting. So they're like, all right, here's the product. You see how the product makes perfect sense. It only costs this much money. And then they'll say, hey, you can also build a business. You can have a team and you can make money off their efforts. And look, your boss is making money off your efforts. You should do the same thing, become your own boss, et cetera, et cetera. That's how they get you in. Then when they get you in, then they tell you the truth. The truth was, and this guy said it, he said, this is sales. I don't want any of y'all to be confused. You are going to have to sell if you're going to be successful in this business. You got to sell the product. And you got to sell people on joining your team. You got to sell them on a business opportunity. And if you can't sell, you ain't going to do well here. This is sales. And everybody needs to get in the sales game. I know too many people, adults, even to this day, who believe that they're not salespeople. They say, well, no, I'm not a salesperson. I don't like sales. Everybody is a salesperson. Every one of you listening to me right now, you are a salesperson. You're either good at it or you're bad at it, but everybody's a salesperson. There's no such thing as not being a salesperson. If you ever been on a date, that was a sale. You have to sell that person on going to the date and then showing up for the date. If you ever got a job, that's sales. If you tried to get a job and didn't get it, that was sales. All right, everything is sales, ladies and gentlemen. There's no such thing as not being a salesperson. Again, you're either a good one or a bad one, but you must learn how to sell. It's one of the most important skills that will carry you through all of life, no matter what you do. I used to play basketball. I had to sell myself to get in. I then became an entrepreneur. I had to sell myself in order to build what I have today. And anything I get in the future, I got to sell. These things don't just fall in your lap. All right. So don't think that when you look around on the internet, for example, and you see these people who have what you may call success and they have everybody coming to them to where the opportunities are just flooding in and they can just pick the ones that they want. Most people do not live like that. Most people's lives are not like that. So if you think that you're somehow missing something or you're missing out because your situation isn't like some internet influencer who it seems like all they got to do is just take all the inbound opportunities and just pick one. Most people don't live like that. That's 98% of people is not like that. You got to actually go sell yourself. You got to sell your products. You got to sell your services. You have to keep actively doing it. And here's another secret that I'll tell you. I'm going to be at a marketing conference in a couple of weeks, the ClickFunnels conference in Vegas. And here's what you need to understand, even with people who it seems like everything is just coming to them and it seems like they don't have to try to sell. Those people are spending more money on advertising, which is what creates the inbound, than you would believe. I know people in the marketing space, and they spend 5 and 6 figures a month on ads. They're spending money on ads. When you spend money on ads, that gets people to click on your stuff and come into your world. But there's a whole lot of ad spend that goes into that. Advertising is sales. Just in case any of you didn't know. So when you get on the internet and you watch a YouTube video and you got to watch the 30-second ad before you can watch the video. All right. Somebody had to buy that. That's advertising. All right, and that is sales. Somebody has to sell those ads and somebody got to buy them. And the people who are doing the most in sales revenue, they're also often spending the most in advertising. Y'all understand? So you can't get one without the other. So you must learn how to sell. Moving on to point number 6. We're talking here today. Benefits of network marketing. Number 6, you learn how to deal with rejection. And this is an important one. If you get into sales, you're going to get rejected. You're going to get rejected a lot when you're in sales, simply because just the numbers game. Not everybody is interested in buying what you're selling. And even if you have the best product in the world, you're the best salesperson in the world, people are still going to say no to you. You must learn how to deal with the rejection of being told no. And it's one thing to get rejected by a stranger. Somebody approaches me when I'm stepping outside of Walgreens and asks me if I want to buy some candy, and I say no. It's one thing for me to reject them because they don't know who I am. I don't know them. Another thing to have your mom or your dad or your cousin or your sister or your grandma reject you, and you're trying to close them because you think they're going to support you and support your business, and they say no and they don't buy from you. You got to learn how to deal with that. And a lot of people are not good at dealing with rejection. And it's the reason why many people are not good at sales, because you are afraid of somebody telling you no. You have to become callous to no. There's a book, one of my favorites on sales. It's called Creating Wealth by Robert G. Allen. If you haven't read it, you should go get it. It's called Creating Wealth by Robert G. Allen. And one of the things in his book is really talking about real estate, but the general idea is about selling. And he uses real estate as his frame because that was his area of expertise, but it's really about selling. And one of the things that he talks about was that he had this way of getting a house, and he would brag, I can get a house free and clear without any money down, put me anywhere in the world, I'll get this house, et cetera, et cetera. And one of the things he talks about is that you get callous to people telling you no. Callous means it doesn't bother you anymore. See, when you go out in sales, when you first start and the first person tells you no and is not interested in you, that might devastate you. But after 100 people tell you no, somebody tells you no, it's like you don't even hear it. You just move on to the next person. It doesn't mean anything. You must learn how to deal with rejection if you want to be a good salesperson. And again, it doesn't matter what you're selling. All right, you want to be a good salesperson, you got to get good at rejection. If you're trying to get a job, you're going to get rejected. You're going to send your resume in and get no response. You're going to go to an interview and they're not going to call you back. You're going to go through 6 rounds of interviews and they're not going to hire you. All right, you must be willing to deal with that. If you're a single man out there, you're going to get rejected. You can go to the bar, try to talk to girls. They're going to not be interested. All right, this is going to happen. And again, it's one thing when it's happening on the internet. It's much more passive. It's another thing when it's happening in real life, face-to-face, belly-to-belly. This is why that face-to-face engagement still matters, ladies and gentlemen. You still got to get out your house. You still got to get off the phone. You still got to deal with actual people. Next, and I got 10 points here. This is number 7. Benefits of network marketing experience. Number 7, you learn how to recruit and lead people. If you are ever going to lead people, you got to get experience doing it. It's kind of a circular point. If you're going to build a team, you must learn how to recruit people. In other words, get people interested in what you have to offer, and then you got to learn how to lead them. Getting somebody to say yes to following you is one thing. Getting them to keep following you is another thing. Those are 2 different things. It's kind of like getting somebody to say yes to going on a date with you, but then getting them to marry you. Those are 2 different things, because somebody might go on one date and never call you back. Now, can you get them to stick with you for the next 5, 10, 20 years? That's a whole different story. So being able to have people follow you requires you to be a leader. And for you to be a leader of people, you must have something or know something or represent something that makes people want to follow you. And if you are not building up yourself and developing yourself, then how can you ever have that? Answer is you can't. This is the reason why the personal development point, which I made, the very first point that I made, matters so much. If you're ever going to lead people, you must be building yourself up and developing yourself. This is also important for those of you who are parents. If you're a parent, understand this, and I say this even respectfully of my own parents, that my parents are not into personal development. And I knew once I got past a certain point of personal development myself, there was not much more that I could learn from them. And again, I say that respectfully. They did a good job of raising my sister and I can't speak for my sister, but for me, once I got to a certain point of personal development and I'm looking at my parents, I'm like, they're not doing this. They're not investing in this. They're not reading. They're not taking courses. They're not learning more to make themselves more valuable people. There's nothing more that I can learn from them. It isn't. Maybe I can learn marriage and getting old because they have that experience. But other than that, ain't much more because they're not doing the development. And if you want people to follow you, you must continually be ahead of them. Y'all get what I'm saying? You got to stay ahead of the people that you want to follow you. Once people start advancing past you, they're not going to want to follow you anymore because they're not going to have respect for what you know or what you represent, what you bring to the table. So you always got to be continually getting better if you want to have people around you who are getting better. So if you're going to build a team of people who are stagnant and it's going to be the same thing forever, then okay, you could be who you are, they are who they are, and you're just going to have a stagnant situation, and everybody just gets older, fatter, and uglier over time. That's what happens with most people. But if you want to have people on your team who are ambitious, people who are growing, people who are getting better, and people who are advancing, then guess what? You got to be doing all those same things, and you got to be doing it faster than they're doing it, because if they pass you, then they're not going to follow you anymore. They're going to be like, why am I following this person? They're no good. I remember I was at a meeting. It's one of the last network marketing meetings I ever went to. And this is when the situation I was in, I decided I was going to get out of it. There was a guy doing the training. It was a training just for people in the business. And I remember it was a Friday night, and I was sitting in the front row, and it was a packed room. And this guy's doing the training, and the things that he was explaining these personal development concepts. And I remember listening to him. He was using the whiteboard, and he was explaining these points and saying the things that he was saying. And when somebody makes a point and they kind of pause in a way and they look at the audience as if they believe they made a really profound point and they want to make sure you got it. And he did that. And I remember listening to what he said, and I said, this motherfucker doesn't know what he's talking about. I said, I know more about this subject than he does. Why am I in the audience and he's on the stage? And I never went to another meeting. And that was it. As soon as I realized that I knew more about the subject than the quote unquote trainer, the expert in the room, I said, I got to get out this room. I'm in the wrong room. Because there are people in that room who were listening to him thinking that what he was saying was profound. I'm like, this guy, first of all, he got the point wrong. He explained it incorrectly, but he's looked at as a leader in this room. Why am I in here? I don't belong in here. And I got out of there. And I'm saying all that to say to you that if you want people to follow you, you better be in front of them, and you better stay in front of them. Because as soon as they get ahead of you, it's over. They'll lose respect for you. They'll lose respect for your knowledge, and they will no longer follow you. And what's worse is that they get to this thought and they're still in your organization, because now they're going to start undermining your whole organization. It's like termites. So you all better be careful. Moving on. Number 8, we're talking the benefits of network marketing / MLM. Number 8, you are in an environment where everyone is hustling. Every one of you has heard of the law of association that states you become the average of the people you spend the most time with. I heard someone else add on to this and say you become the average of the people who you compare yourself to. And I think actually that's even more accurate, because I could spend time with you and just generally ignore you. But you are going to become the people who you are looking at yourself, and you're looking at them and saying, all right, I got to do better because look what he did. Or I got to step my game up because look what she's doing. So that's actually who you become, whoever you're comparing yourself to. Because how do I get better? Even if you're comparing yourself to yourself. The good thing about network marketing, as opposed to, let's say, a business you start by yourself, is that you are surrounded by other people who are also grinding, also hustling, also ambitious, also trying to get better. And they're also being held accountable by everybody else. Because, again, any of you has experience in network marketing, you know when you go to the meetings, one of the things that makes you look like you're doing something in the meetings is when you bring other people with you, right? Every time you come to a meeting, you want to be bringing a guest, somebody who might be interested in the business, somebody who already joined, and you're introducing them to the room, and just you want to be bringing new people in. Why does that matter? Is because everybody else sees you doing it, and it's an accountability thing. And what you don't want to be is a person who keeps coming to the meetings, but every time you come to the meeting, you're by yourself, but all the other people who are hustling, they got a guest, she has 2 guests, he bought 3 guests, and you keep showing up to the meetings by yourself, and you don't have anybody with you. Well, you start to feel bad because you're like, damn, everybody else is bringing guests. I ain't bringing anybody. You're either A, going to quit and stop showing up, or B, you're going to start motivating yourself, or you're going to get motivated by that experience to, hey, let me get some other people and bring them with me. So the good thing about one of the benefits of network marketing, I already mentioned 10 others here, but one of the benefits is the accountability of being amongst the group. One of the challenges for many of you who are listening to this now, especially those of you who are solopreneurs, you have a business and it's just you. You're not really connected to other people. Maybe you're not in a coaching program. You're not in any type of mastermind. You don't go to events or anything like that. You're just doing everything, just you, off your own energy. Is that you don't have the built-in accountability that comes with engaging with other people. But you need that. Why? Because human beings are social creatures. We are wired for social connection. And we are influenced by the people we spend time around, especially when we're comparing ourselves to them. One of the reasons that I go to marketing conferences these days is not for the information coming from the stage. I've been to enough of these conferences. I've spoken at a bunch of them. I've done a ton of personal and professional development on myself. Most of the stuff that I hear from the stage, I've heard before. I'm already familiar with the people, and or the content's just not that good. I don't go to the events for the information. I go to the events for the connection, for the people. I want to shake hands. I want to look people in their face. I want to hear about other people who are in my lane and see what they're doing. I want to see people who are doing better than me. And all of that, what does that do? That motivates me to, I got to step my game up. All right, this person is doing stuff that I didn't know about, or this person knows something I don't know. I go to conferences, and I'll tell you, most of the stuff I learned at conferences, I learned in the hallways and in the lobbies. I'll be talking to somebody, we're in a similar lane. I'm like, yo, this is the challenge I'm dealing with right now. And he'll be like, oh, you don't know about this? They'll tell me about that thing. And then I go use it. I go implement that in my business. I wouldn't have got that information if I wasn't in the room. See, this is the reason why you got to be outside, folks. So even though I do a lot of work inside, from the internet and doing all this stuff, I still got to go outside and shake hands and meet people. And again, look them in their eyes and make connections with other human beings, because other people just know stuff. There's too much information out here in the world today for any of us to get all of it on our own. It's impossible. There's too much information. You wouldn't get any work done if you were consuming all the information that was out there. But if you have connections, you know somebody over here, I know somebody who knows this stuff, I know somebody over there. You need to know people in different spaces who may be in your same lane, but they have a different focus, because they'll know stuff that you don't know. So I know people, like, I'm not a big tech person, but I know people who are big on tech. So if I have a tech question, there's one WhatsApp message away from that person knows a lot more than I would about that space. I know a whole lot about, let's say, building funnels, and I pay attention to the internet a lot. So if somebody needs that kind of information, they message me. I can give them information. They give me information. I know people who are in other people's coaching programs. So they'll say, hey, I'm in this person's coaching program. And in their program, they talk about ABC. Dre, do you hear about that? You know about that? No, I don't know about that. What is that? And they'll plug me into some of that information. I'm in somebody else's program. I'll plug them into that information. But if you don't know anybody, you're missing out on all of this, folks. This is why you got to be connected to people. And what network marketing does is by design, it connects you to other people. That's the good part about it. You win friends, you make friends, you make connections. And again, you learn about what other people are doing that you never would have known about just by sitting by yourself scrolling through the internet. You never would have came across that insight or that information had you not known another person. This is why relationships matter so much in life. And even though we're talking about business here, folks, the bottom line of what life is about is relationships. It's not about how much money you made, even though you should make money. It's not about your career, even though you probably have one. It's about relationships. And the more relationships you have, that makes it much easier to build business, make money, and have a successful career. Many of the things that I've done in business and that I'm going to do moving forward, especially this year, are based on the relationships I have with other people. Not because I'm just so amazing, even though I am amazing. It's because I have the right connections. Like if I was amazing by myself and nobody knew me, then it'd be a lot harder to do the things that I'm going to do with the connections that I have. All right, you got to have the right connections. You got to know the right people. When you know the right people and you have game, that's when great things happen. If you know a whole bunch of people and you have no game, well, you get some opportunity. And if you have a whole lot of game, you don't know anybody, then it's like frustrating. It's like running uphill. There's a whole lot of hard work because you're not connected. The connections open doors for you that you couldn't open by yourself. Everybody understand this? And you need to get good at figuring out which connections do I need to make so I can take the next step and the next step and the next step. And for every one of you listening to this, there's a connection that could take all the work you're doing right now and multiply it by 10 if you knew the right person and if the right person knew you. But if they don't know you, then you're stuck in the same spot. Everybody with me? All right. So next one, 2 more points here. We're talking here the benefits of network marketing / MLM. Number 11, number 9. You're learning from people who are actively doing and teaching business every day, not just from a teacher who is employed. This is my biggest challenge with the educational system when it comes to entrepreneurship and business. It's not that the educational system is necessarily bad, depending on your aims. If you want to go get a really good job and stay in that career for the next 40 years, you should go to school and get a degree because it will set you up to do exactly that. Pick the right major, focus on that career, and it'll set you up for exactly that. If you want to be an entrepreneur, then school is not designed to turn you into one. It's not that school is necessarily bad for you, depending on what it costs. It could be. But the thing is, if you want to be an entrepreneur, you want to be in business, then you need to be dealing with people who are actually doing business. A college professor has employment teaching at college. They are not running a business. You want to learn how to run a business, you got to be dealing with people who run businesses. Network marketing, you're in a room full of people who all have a business. Even if their business is not making any money, at least they're trying. If they're showing up to the meetings, they're trying. The person on the stage is actively running a business. They are talking about business. You are learning about business. Even if only 10% of the people in the room are having any success in the business, at least they're all trying to do business as opposed to a bunch of people trying to get a job. Which one are you trying to do? You trying to get a job? You trying to run a business? If you want to run a business, you should be in a room full of people who are trying to run a business as opposed to a room full of people who are trying to get a job. Just, it only makes sense. I already told you all, when I was in network marketing, and again, all told, maybe 2 years total experience, I spent more money than I made, but I don't consider it a bad output. Why? How much money did you spend to go to college? How much money did you make back? See, people don't do that calculation when it comes to college, but they look at everything else and do the exact same calculation. The money that I spent in network marketing, I consider that an investment into my learning, into entrepreneurship. And I made more money as an entrepreneur than I spent in network marketing. I guarantee you that. The whole point being, I was in a room full of other people who were all trying to hustle, all trying to get better, all looking to change their mindsets, all looking to get personal and professional development, and all looking to support each other in doing the exact same thing. When you're in that environment, you have no choice but to think like that. Whoever you hang around, you're going to be like. You become the average of the people you spend the most time. All you've heard this before. The question is, are you actually applying it? Are you hanging around other people who are trying to go where you're trying to go? Is it yes or no question? All right. And again, school sets you up to get a good job. If you want to get a good job, go to school. If you want to run a business, you have to go somewhere where business is happening. Network marketing is the easiest entry point for that in pretty much in, I would say, I'm trying to think if there's an exception to this. I would say in the world, this is probably the best entry point simply because it's so easy to get in. You can get into a network marketing business for what, $200, $500, maybe at the most. I'm not saying you should go do it now. I have no idea what's happening in that space now. I told you it's been over 10 years since I've even known anything about what's happening. But at least back then, you could learn about business for relatively cheap from a bunch of other people who are learning the same way that you're learning, and with a bunch of people who are learning where you're learning, and you learn from people who've been doing it longer than you. And last point, you might make some money. The last point about being a network marketer is you might actually make some money. Now, we know if you look at the data on network marketing, what people say about it, and people who have negative views of it and call it a pyramid scheme, that people will tell you that most people who get in network marketing businesses do not make money. I will tell you from personal experience that is true. Most people who get in network marketing businesses do not make money. Let me also tell you what's true. Most people who go to college have more in debt than they are making at the jobs that they got based on the degree that they have. But see, people don't say the same thing about college they say about network marketing. And anyway, your investment in network marketing is a lot lower than your investment in college, but people will trash network marketing saying you spent more money than you made, but they don't say the same thing about college. And you spend a lot more money to go to college than what you spent to join a network marketing company. You can join a network marketing company for $500. How much it costs you to go to college? Any of you go to college for $500? Name one. Ain't none. The whole point being, again, what are your aims? Where are you trying to go? And you got to actually make some real calculations here to make sense. Not just listening to what people say that sounds good, but doesn't actually make sense. I did not make money in network marketing. I made sales. Overall, I spent more than I made, but I consider that an investment because all the things that I just told you. I wouldn't have got any of these had I not had an experience in network marketing. I would not be an entrepreneur to this day. I would not have become the salesperson who I am to this day. I wouldn't have the thought process that I have to this day had I only gone to college and just take what college taught me. Had I just taken what college taught me, I wouldn't be here right now because right now I'd be at work. All right. Well, I'm at work right now, but I'd be at my job right now had I just taken what college taught me. All that said, folks, let's take questions and comments. Let me recap these points in case any of you came in the middle of me talking. I'm going to take questions right now. Best 10 benefits you get from network marketing. Number 1, introduction to personal development. Number 2, you learn basic principles of business and ownership. Number 3, you learn a shit ton about people. Number 4, you embrace learning outside of formal education. Number 5, you learn how to sell. Number 6, you learn how to deal with rejection. Number 7, you learn how to recruit and lead people. Number 8, you're in an environment where everybody is hustling. Number 9, you learn from people who are actively doing the thing you want to do. And number 10, you just might get lucky and make some money. All that said, let's see what we got. I'm going to take Instagram first, then we'll go over to YouTube. I think I got more comments on YouTube. So I saved the one with the most for last. I'm going to do these lives. And by the way, I do these live streams Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Eastern, by the way. Mike Kirby Story, good morning. Good to see you. Success with Edward. Good to see you, sir. Let's see what we got over on, I'm checking Rumble and Facebook and LinkedIn. I can't see comments. So let's see what we got on YouTube. O-Dog said, the part I hate about MLM is the pressure from uplines to recruit. I think they should focus on selling the product and then recruiting once selling is mastered. Well, I get that. Although there is a lot of pressure to recruit. The thing is, the whole point of MLM is giving you the opportunity to build a business that can make you money without you having to work. So that's where the recruitment part comes from. And it ain't for everybody. A lot of people kind of stumble on that part of recruiting because they don't like the pressure, and there is pressure. I would agree with you that there is a lot of pressure that goes into that, depending on who it is and how they do it. But the culture is of pressure. I get it. And I would focus on selling the product a lot, but the actual money, the real money in network marketing is in building a team. That's just the reality of the situation. Carla, good morning to you. Odell said, business is all about mentality. Poor people believe everybody selling something to them is trying to take advantage of them. Therefore, never try to sell something themselves. That's a fact. That is true. Asking people about their money habits makes people squirm, like when you ask them about their sex life. Well, yeah, well, anything that just goes into talking about money, period, makes people very uncomfortable. But you learn a lot about people. You get a crash course in humanity when you get into sales. That's one thing I will tell you. Carla said, this information I want my children to learn now. Yes. Earlier they get introduced to this stuff, the better. Personal development and entrepreneurship are, I'll tell all of you, the top two things that my kids must learn are personal development and entrepreneurship. Everything else, they get to choose. But personal development, entrepreneurship. Now, my kids don't have to play sports. They don't want to. But they will learn personal development, and they will very much understand entrepreneurship. Everything else, I'm going to let them generally let them be who they're going to be. Odell said, good products sell themselves. You just have to relay information about the product. A good salesman can sell a bad product. That's true. Yes, quality product does matter, and getting in front of more of the right people is also very important. A good product sells itself as long as they know that you have it. That's the thing. People got to know you got it. And today there's so much information out there. A good product could just go under people's noses because they don't know that it exists. Odell said, that's the gym. Young men understand that the woman should be selling herself when on a date. That way they're both on a level playing field. Yes, I would say there are some exceptions to that depending on who the man is or who the woman is. But generally, I agree with you. Equimini said, the conferences are great. I made friends all over the country being around like-minded individuals. Yes, very important. And staying plugged in. Just got to be plugged into the world. There is a time to kind of put your head down and just do your stuff and not talk to the outside world. And there's also a time to come up for air and be outside, as I like to call it, being outside, where everything is happening. So the reason I go to conferences these days is not for the information. I go to conferences so I can be outside. I can see and be seen. I can shake hands. I can renew connections. I can make new connections. I can meet people who I otherwise wouldn't have met. I got to spend time outside. You can't just be in the house the whole time with what you do. You got to be outside. And Mad Villainy says, unless you got a full scholarship or nearly that, college is far more risky. Yes, these days it's become more risky because the prices keep going up. That's the challenge with college, that the prices keep going up. And yeah, with a full scholarship, or if you know exactly what you want to do career-wise, if you know that you want to become an engineer, then it's okay to take $200,000 in loans to become an engineer because you know you want to be an engineer. If you know that's what you want to do, then go do it. If you know you want to become a lawyer, then go do it. The challenge I see is that I've heard from a lot of people who go to college with an idea that I'm going to become ABC. They take out all the loans so they can become that thing. Then they get the degree. And then as soon as they start doing that thing they got the degree for, they realize they don't want to do it anymore. But now you still owe that money. You still got that sunk cost of all the time you put into it. And now you got to pivot and you still got to pay back that money. So that's what happens with a lot of people is they think they want to be something until they get into it and they realize they don't want to be it. I hear this most often in the law profession. In the legal profession, I've heard this more times than I'd be comfortable to tell you. Someone did pre-law. They went to law school, and either during law school, they realize they don't want to be a lawyer, or when they get out of law school and they actually start practicing law, they realize they don't want to be a lawyer. I hear it more in the law space than any other space. Engineers, I don't hear it that often. Most engineers who I know are happy being engineers. They knew they wanted to be one. They became one, and now they are one. Doctors, I don't hear it that often in the medical space. I hear it in medical space of non-doctors like nurses and stuff, but doctors usually not. Because you could be a doctor and run your own business if you want to. But law is the one I hear it the most. And then you got people who just get the what do we call them? Run-of-the-mill degrees, sociology degrees, human studies degrees, communications degrees. These degrees that don't really direct you anywhere, but you got the degree, but then you got to figure out what the hell to do. I hear it often with those folks as well. Carla says, the information and experience you took away from MLM more valuable than actually being in MLM? Well, I don't know, Carla. I think you got to be in it to get the information and the experience. I had to be in it in order to get it. So I'm not sure how to answer that question. Everything that I told you about the benefits of MLM came from the fact that I was in it. My experience gave me the information. So had I not been in it and I just heard somebody saying these things, then I wouldn't value it as much. But because I personally experienced it, that's why it is valuable from having actually lived it. So the best part about it was, I think the best thing for me was that I got introduced at a young age when my mind was still open to any possibility. Had I had 8 years into a professional career of employment and then got introduced, I probably would have been a lot more closed-minded to the concept. So I'm glad I got introduced when I did. And I'll tell you how I got introduced. I saw a bulletin board posting on my college campus when I was like a sophomore. And it said, hey, are you interested in making some money outside of school? And the answer to me was yes. And I called the little phone number, and that guy was doing network marketing. He introduced me right there on the spot. Well, he introduced me when I came to meet him, but I was open to it. The thing is, folks, the biggest thing, everybody, is actually two things. Is number one, you have to be looking for the opportunity. Opportunities are all over the place, but you got to be looking for them. So I'm looking for opportunities. When I told you how I got introduced to network marketing, but I just told you I was looking for an opportunity. Because I was looking, I noticed it. A lot of other people walked past that bulletin board posting. They were looking for money too, but they weren't looking the way I was looking, so they didn't notice it. And then the second thing is, once the opportunity is presented, what are you going to do? Because here's the funny thing that I didn't even tell you all. So this guy, this is on my college campus, some random guy. He introduced me to the concept of network marketing. It does this, whatever. Then I didn't hear from that dude ever again. I did not hear from him again. I tried to follow up with him because when he first told me about it, I was like, yeah, I'll think about it. Then when I decided that I wanted to actually see more about it, I tried to call this dude and he didn't answer the phone and he never called me back. Didn't hear from him again. So then I'm home in Philly and I'm at home, my parents' house. This is in the summertime in college. I hear my mom is downstairs in the living room having a meeting with some other woman. I knew the woman. It was a woman, like a child. I knew that woman because she was friends with my mom when I was growing up. So she's sitting there talking to my mom. And I hear them talking downstairs. I'm in my bedroom, not paying attention. But I hear this woman talking, and she mentions the same company that random dude had introduced me to. So then I go downstairs and interrupt the conversation. And I'm like, yo, I heard you mention XYZ. And I say to her, this woman who's my mom's friend, somebody told me about that, but I haven't been able to get in touch with him. Can you plug me in? So I basically recruited myself to join her team. That's how I got in. The whole point being, folks, I took initiative. That dude didn't even return my call. And I'm like, I don't even know how to get in this business. I don't know anybody else. But when I heard somebody talking about it, I jumped on that opportunity. So it's, first of all, looking for the opportunity. Secondly, taking initiative when you see it. And a lot of people don't take initiative on things. You see things, but you don't do anything. And then the opportunity just goes right by you. The next person takes advantage of it. So that's a big part of selling as well. And if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you must be an opportunist. That means you're looking for opportunity and then you take it when you see it. If you don't do those things, you will not survive as an entrepreneur. You have to be an opportunist, always looking and then jumping on it when it comes. So with all that said, everybody, I do these live streams Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Eastern. This week, what else am I going to talk about? I'm going to talk about some other things that are along these lines of personal and professional development. I think you all appreciate these and can benefit from them. So I got a lot more on this. I got a ton of material on this subject. Also be talking about current events. If there's a current event that is worth bumping up to the top, then I'll talk about it. But I got a few that I'm going to hold on to. Some of them are more like social issues. Doesn't really matter when I talk about it. But if something happens that's like newsworthy, then I'll do a whole lot just on that if it's like news. But other than that, I'll do personal development, professional development, and current events, depending on what's happening. So it just depends on what's happening in the news cycle, everybody. Make sure you're subscribed to my YouTube channel. Those of you watching on Instagram, subscribe to my YouTube. Is YouTube/@DreB, DRE, the letter B. And all of my live streams, when I'm done, the recordings all live on YouTube. So anything that you missed or you only caught half of it, all the whole recording is on my YouTube channel. They'll always be there as long as YouTube exists. I think YouTube's going to be around. And YouTube's not too strict on it. They've relaxed their community guidelines, unlike TikTok, where I'm currently suspended. So I'm not live on TikTok today. I'm currently suspended off TikTok till Friday because I violated their rules by saying something that all the other apps was okay with me saying. I'm live, just so y'all understand, I'm live on 6 different platforms right now. Instagram, YouTube, Rumble, X, Facebook, and LinkedIn, and usually TikTok. And then I'll say something that all of them here heard, but only TikTok kicks me off. So TikTok has these very strict rules about things you can say and that you can't say, whereas all the other apps don't have these rules. So it doesn't make any sense. And it's funny that TikTok is going back and forth with the government right now, talking about free speech, while they have actually the strictest rules about what you can say and what you can't say at the same time. That's funny, right? Ironic that they got the strictest rules about what you can't say, but they're talking about the U.S. government should allow free speech and not ban them from having a Chinese-owned app and having so much influence in America. Funny thing, right? Well, hopefully somebody like Elon Musk buys TikTok. That'll be perfect for me, where they relax the community guidelines and I can still get the audience. Because TikTok does have a healthy audience. When I do these live streams, I get a very healthy audience, thousands of people on TikTok. So that's why I want TikTok to be around, but they got to do something with these rules, because they done suspended me 5 or 6 times in the last 6 months. All of that said, everybody, that's why I say YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube, because this one will always be around, I'm betting. And I will be back tomorrow, 8 o'clock Eastern, topic to be determined. Everybody have a great Monday. I'll see you all tomorrow. Work on your game.